It was 1 second. I was awake because rocket was crashing in our airport. And it was only 1 second which changed my life. My classmates asked me about how it was when war was beginning. I began to explain how I go to Poland, how I feel when the rocket was crashing. I go in car and I see it. City was in fire. In one moment, everything can change, and everything can end.
Nathaniel, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me today. Talk about Don't Leave Me Behind. What a powerful documentary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're approaching the 1-year anniversary of the Ukrainian war. And so how did you get involved with the subject matter? How did you discover the plight of these teenagers?
Sure. Well, I mean, initially I was in Europe at the start of the invasion. I was in Madrid, and I noticed the tone in the city shifting in Western Europe, in Madrid, and precedent for this sort of thing is takes us back to, I mean, you could argue the Balkan Civil War, but really back to World War II. And on the drop of a dime in the streets of Madrid, there were protests within a number of hours of the invasion, and it immediately occurred to me that there were only two types of coverage that were surfacing. There was sort of a very specific type of coverage of reportage of CNN, things like that. There was lo-fi citizen coverage, and I noticed a lack of engagement with refugee stories off the jump, almost immediately, and specifically as it relates to young people. There was no discussion of young people, the immediate impact on teenagers and the youth who were forced to flee and forced to uproot. So I brought this to MTV. I knew that they were really passionate about stories about young people and about mental health, and we took it from there.
And the trauma they experience being displaced from their country and separated from their families. How did you find these incredible teens and their struggle and their stories to tell? I mean, did you finding them specifically? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky that I work with a really, really closely connected group of Ukrainian filmmakers, and the community out there is extremely robust. There's a film industry in Poland and Ukraine, and it's very interconnected. So I reached out to friends in Berlin, friends in London, and basically through this web of relationships, we found a psychotherapy group for teen refugees. And through that psychologist named Katya, she's one of the subjects in the film, she introduced us to one of our subjects, and it became sort of this snowball effect of doors opening. People were interested, engaged, teenagers wanted to talk to us. The theme of the film really is passing the microphone to this generation of people who want to engage and want to talk and share their stories. So we really found that kids were eager and excited to be a part of it and to share their experiences and how they're coping with this.
And not only that, how do you gain their trust? Because you are telling their story. How do you get the trust of your subjects?
Yeah, it's an interesting, from a documentary perspective, it's an interesting task. It's usually time is the answer. You spend time with people. With these kids in particular, I think that the lack of coverage of their stories really created an eagerness. And then I have to credit my story producer, Yulia. She is Ukrainian, and she did the initial outreach to the kids. And we just were able to build a really close relationship through her. She was sort of our translator, and it just kind of went from there.
And for every documentary filmmaker, they hope for that moment in their film. What was that moment for you in this film?
Oh, it's an interesting question. I think that as much as the film is about the processing of trauma, the experience of war and the aftermath of war, the beautiful thing about the film, I think, is that they're teenagers. These are still kids, and it's still an environment of young people asking what's next, right? So we spent a lot of time with just these really exciting, engaging, resilient teenagers. So there were a lot of laughs, and I think, I mean, all right. So the best example is our last night. We shot an interview with one of our lead subjects, Sasha, and she presented us with, it was just a sort of cathartic night. It was her interview. She brought us all gifts. I'm hopelessly addicted to coffee, so I drink a lot of coffee on set. And so she got me a gift of socks, and on the socks there were these coffee mugs all over it, and it was a sort of like nice parting gift. And I actually got a tattoo of that image of a coffee, one of the images on the gift, and we're sort of bonded for life for that. And so I always look back on that memory as a parting memory, and a specific one. But there's no one moment. I mean, these kids were incredible. They were resilient, they were engaging, and the storytelling spoke for itself.
And I have to applaud MTV for airing this, because it's not something that I would think MTV would air, but I think that's an important, and it's also their audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, MTV were incredible partners from day one. They were focused on the mental health journeys of these kids. They were focused on telling it the right way. They got us out there incredibly quickly and safely. We went to the border with Ukraine. They were very committed to the crew's safety. And yeah, they share, as I do and my company does, they share with us a commitment to telling both refugee stories and mental health stories. And it was really a privilege to work with them.
And after watching this documentary, I'm always about call to action. So how can viewers help the young people of Ukraine?
Sure. So the documentary is partnered with Choose Love. It's an organization, a really great one. They can find it at ukraine.mtv.com. It's at the end of the film, get through it. There's a slug that'll tell you exactly where to go. ukraine.mtv.com.
Daniel, thank you so much for joining me this morning. What an incredible documentary. Thank you for your passion and your dedication. And let's talk again soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.